Vinit, then you kindly
Yes,
stop the
sir.
recordings and inform to all.
Yes, sir. I'm going to live, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. The live is on.
Yes, sir. The live is on. Anu, you can continue.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon to all the participants present here, and I welcome you all to the virtual symposium on recent trends in the aquaculture industries, second day, the afternoon session. And I cordially welcome Dr. Imbagandan sir, scientist and head for Center for Ocean Research, and Dr. Amreni Ravikumar, who is the guest speaker for this session. And shall I proceed with the introduction, sir?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So Dr. Amreni Ravikumar has done his master's in aquaculture and PhD in shrimp pathology. He have 26 years experience in shrimp industry, and he had owned shrimp disease diagnostic laboratory partner in Alpha Biologicals aquatic animal health products manufacturing company, and he is also a founder of Ravi Aqua Academy. And to a note, he is a partner in Blue Star Marine Shrimp Hatchery. So to start our session, I welcome and I'm taking an immense pleasure to welcome Dr. Amreni Ravikumar sir, and I hand over the session to you, sir. Thank you.
Welcome, Ravi sir. Thanks for your presence here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Inba Kandan, for the nice introduction as well as for the opportunity. When you said 1700 people registered, really I'm excited.
Sir, all kind information, sir. Now the registration is 1,700, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Let me share my screen.
Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah, please, sir, please.
I'm going to talk on shrimp viral diseases. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now the topic I'm going to speak is on viral diseases of Lithopenes venami. So before going to the presentation, we should know what is disease. What is the definition of a disease? I'm expecting several students in this session, so I'm going a bit academic. So what is the definition of a disease? Take your mobile phone, Google it, you get hundreds of definitions. So, but the exactly suitable one is that the definition given by OIE, World Organization for Animal Health. According to the OIE, the definition for disease is any adverse alteration in the health or the culture performance of individual or populations of the shrimp. It has a very good meaning. What we think is disease means it is killing the shrimp. It's not like that in all the cases. There are certain diseases, they affect the culture performance. For example, poor growth is caused by IHHNV and EHP. Some cases, change in the shape. All these diseases, they affect the culture performance. So this definition exactly suitable for aquaculture, especially for the shrimp. And this is by OIE, World Organization for Animal Health. And how do you know that there is a disease? So there are certain signs and symptoms. What is a sign and what is a symptom? You know what is a sign and what is a symptom? There is a slight difference. Certain things which you can feel. For example, if you're not feeling hungry, you have a headache, it's not visible. For example, certain symptoms are visible. Suppose there is a black spot on the shrimp, it is visible. So that is the difference between a sign and a symptom. So coming to the common signs and symptoms in shrimp, anorexia means not feeding, it's not feeding well. Antenna cut is one of the common symptoms. Change in color, sometimes shrimp changes to blue in color and sometimes shrimp changes to red in color. And change in shape, for example, in case of IHHNV, it causes a disease called as run to deformity syndrome. In that case, there is a change in shape. Some cases there will be a poor growth. In case of AHP, poor growth will be there. And some cases there is a size variation, huge size variation. And some cases shrimp will come to the surface. The shrimp will come to the surface and start swimming. Even fish, they start coming to the surface and start swimming. And in some cases there is a mortality. For example, white spot virus, there is a huge mortality. And in some cases there is opaqueness of the muzzle. For example, diseases like IMNV, running mortality syndrome, there is a opaqueness in the muzzle. So in some cases, there is loose shell. For example, if you take Whitefish syndrome, at the last phase of the disease, you find loose shell and then mortality. And in some cases, you find black spots or melanized lesions. We also call it as cuticular lesions, melanized cuticular lesions. In some cases, there is partial molting. And one more important parameter is blood clotting time. If you draw the blood from the shrimp, if the clotting time is less than 1 minute, that shrimp is healthy. If the clotting time is more than 1 minute, it is not healthy. It's a very easy thing you can do in the farm itself. And one more thing is white fecal matter. White fecal matter normally floats on the water surface and it is visible to the naked eye. And in some cases, the gut will become white. For example, in case of cyanobacterial blue-green algae toxins, the gut will become white. And some cases you find tail rot, and some cases you find edema. Edema means accumulation of the fluid. In some parts of the body is called as edema. In some cases you find blisters. And in several cases, there is a change in color, and some cases there is white spots are visible on the carapace. These are all the common symptoms that we observe in the diseased shrimp. And have a look at this picture on the left. What are the signs and symptoms you can make out? Can anybody comment on that? So first thing is you can make out size variation. Second thing is on the top shrimp, you can see the gill fouling. And the third thing is on the bottom one, there is deformity here and deformity here. And the fourth, you can see antenna cut. And the fifth, you can see antenna turned red. So by looking at the shrimp, you can make out some of the signs and some of the symptoms. Then let us go to the types of diseases. There are 3 types of diseases in any animal, maybe a plant or maybe animal, maybe humans. Diseases are 3 types: microbial diseases, environmental diseases, and nutritional diseases. In shrimp, virus diseases are most dangerous, cause maximum damage, maximum economic loss to the farmers. And there is a bacterial diseases like vibriosis, and fungal diseases like the fusarium, lesnidium, and protozoa. In most of the cases, it is a secondary infection. And there are some common environmental diseases. For example, ammonia toxicity, nitrite toxicity, hydrogen sulfide toxicity, low dissolved oxygen, and chemical toxicity. These are the common environmental diseases. And coming to nutritional diseases, as far as shrimp is concerned, very few nutritional diseases were reported. The first one is reported by vitamin C deficiency. They call it as black death, and black spots are the visible symptoms. And mineral deficiency, most of the cases, they report it as white muzzle. White muzzle is most of the cases it is due to mineral deficiency. These are the types of diseases. And today we are going to focus only on viral diseases, especially OIE listed viral diseases. And if you come to the disease development, microbial disease development is a result of interaction between pathogen, host, and environment. For example, host factors like species, age, and immunity. If you take one particular virus, IHHNV, it kills Penaeus stylirostis. It causes a disease called as runt deformity syndrome in Lithopenaeus vennami. And it doesn't cause any disease in Monodon. So the pathogen is same, but it causes different diseases in different hosts. And environment, for example, the low temperature is favorable for virus outbreaks. The 25 degrees centigrade is most favorable temperature for the virus to multiply. On the other hand, high temperature is favorable for Vibrio. So Vibrio multiplies faster at high temperature. So during summer, you get more viral bacterial diseases, and during winter, we get more viral diseases. And again, depends on pathogen types. Some pathogens are more virulent, some pathogens are less virulent. If you take vibriosis, the pathogen that causes luminescent diseases, Vibrio horrivae, it is more virulent. In the farm, the pathogen that causes AHPND, acute hepatopancreatic necrotic disease, uh, that is having a plasmid that produces two toxins is more pathogenic than the normal Vibrio species. So the disease is the interaction of all these three factors. So let us go to viral diseases. So this is the electron microscopy pictures. I got it from one of the publications from Arizona University. In India, we have MBV in Monodon, but now this is delisted from OIE. And we have white spot virus, we have IMNB, and we have IHHNV. And we don't have Thara syndrome virus, and we don't have yellowhead virus. We have the smallest virus. The smallest virus is IHHNV. It is around 20 nanometers. And we have the biggest virus. It is around 360 nanometers. White spot virus is the biggest known shrimp virus so far. And we will discuss in detail white spot virus, IHHNV, Thara syndrome, yellowhead virus, and IMNV. And if you look at the shape, Thara syndrome virus, IMNV, and IHHNV are icosahedral, and MBV, baculovirus pini, white spot syndrome virus, and yellowhead virus are rod shaped. So if you compare the size, IHHNV virus is 20 nanometers. Hepatopancreatic parvovirus that is there in Monodon shrimp, it is around 22 nanometers. White spot is 130 into 350 nanometers. BP, baculovirus pini, Monodon baculovirus, they are around 75 to 300 nanometers. And Thara syndrome virus is around 30 nanometers. And we have IMNV in India, it is around 40 nanometers. And we don't have YHV, it is around 70 to 180 nanometers. This is the comparative chart of virus particle size. So coming to the virus infection, first is white spot virus. It was first reported in 1994 in India. Infection with white spot syndrome virus means infection with a pathogenic agent, white spot syndrome virus, or WSSV. It belongs to genus Vispovirus and family Nemaviridae. Nema means tail. So this virus, if you look at the electron microscopic picture, it has a tail. So it was named as Nema. Nema means tail. So what are the gross signs and symptoms of white spot virus? First one is anorexia. Anorexia means they stop taking feed so that the total daily feed will come down. And redness of the body color changes to redness. There are several reasons for the redness of the body. For example, Vibrio, there is a redness. Any stress, the body turns red. All these symptoms are not specific to white spot. You can find these symptoms in other diseases also. That's why they call it as syndrome. If you don't know the exact reason for a disease, we call it as syndrome. On the other hand, in a particular disease, if there are several signs and symptoms together, we also call it as syndrome. So here we call it as white spot syndrome because there are several signs and symptoms involved in it. So as we discussed, anorexia, redness of the body, antenna cutting. Sometimes there will be two antenna cut, sometimes there will be one antenna cut, and surfacing of the shrimp. So in case of surfacing of the shrimp, for example, if there is low dissolved oxygen, shrimp will come to the surface in the morning. But in case of white spot virus, shrimp will come to the surface throughout the day. They come to the surface, they came to sites, and you can find mortality. So 24 hours throughout the day, there will be mortality. But in case of low dissolved oxygen, you find mortality only in the morning. In case of high ammonia and high pH toxicity, you find mortality in the evening. But in case of white spot virus, the mortality and surfacing will be there throughout the day. And you can find some cannibalism and edema. In very rare cases, there is an accumulation of the fluid in some of the body parts. We call it as edema. They call it as EDEMA and OEDEMA. Both are correct. American English and British English, both are correct. And you can find mortality before molting and after molting, post-molt mortality and pre-molt mortality. What is that? Right? So And as I said earlier, these symptoms are not specific to white spot syndrome virus. Hence, we need a confirmatory diagnosis. So look at this picture. If you closely observe, you can find a fluid accumulation in the cephalic region. You can see here, all this is the fluid accumulation. And you can see this, there is a gap between cephalothorax and abdomen. This we call it as edema. Edema means accumulation of the fluid. In case of white spot, you find this edema in some of the shrimps, not in all. And if you come to the another symptom, presence of white spots on the body. So there are 4 pictures on the top. You can see this. This one is, there are no visible white spots. And this case, there are visible white spots. I took the shrimp and peeled the head, removed that carapace, and you can see the white spots on the carapace. So in some cases, white spots are not visible to the naked eye. In some cases, white spots are visible to the naked eye. So this is one of the symptoms. So if you come on the left bottom, there is one molting shell, and you can see a lot of white spots on it. And there is no mortality on that. And this is not a white spot caused by virus. There are several reasons for white spots, and you must go for a confirmatory diagnosis. One more picture here on the right, bottom right. I have visited a farm near Wongol. They were about to harvest, and I asked them, what is the problem? They said, we have white spot virus outbreak. Then I told them, I asked them, show me the shrimp. They did sampling. When we saw, there are white spots on the carapace, and you can see there is a gill fouling. So this particular, then I have confirmed it. I have a white spot diagnostic kit with me. I have confirmed it. It's not white spot virus. They thought it is white spot virus based on the symptoms, and they're about to harvest it. And I told them it is not white spot virus. You have to treat for the gills, and they treated with BKC, and they get very good crop after that. So just by looking at the white spots, we cannot say it is a white spot virus outbreak. You must go for a confirmatory diagnosis. Then, coming to the morphology of the white spots, as I told, not all the white spots are caused by white spot syndrome virus. Very, very important. And white spots caused by white spot virus are bigger in size and with a central halo and radiating lines. I will show you all the pictures step by step. And white spots caused by other regions has a dot in the center with a floral appearance. Once again, I'm repeating, white spots caused by white spot syndrome are bigger in size when compared to the other forms of white spot, and with a central halo and radiating lines. And white spots caused by other regions other than white spot virus has a dot in the center with a dot in the center with a floral appearance. And white spots caused by white spot virus in monodon is entirely different. I'll show you the pictures. It will be a bit confusing, but when I show you the pictures, it will be clear for you. So this is the morphology of the white spot in juveniles. If the age is less than 30 days, the morphology of the white spot is like this. You can see this, all these radiating lines and all fused together. There is no individual white spots. All the white spots are fused in juveniles. So this is a very typical, especially in juveniles. If it looks like this, this is the morphology of the white spot caused by white spot syndrome virus. Then, so this is the microscopic picture of carapace under microscope. This is the normal, the first one is normal carapace, no white spots on it. And here white spots are developing. At this stage, we cannot say whether it is bacterial white spot or viral white spot. And this too, can you see a central halo here? And one more here, and radiating lines. These two are the typical morphology of white spots in Lithopenes vennami. So these two. And in the middle, here, can you see a dot here? There is no central halo space. There is a dot, and it's a floral appearance. And this is caused by bacteria, Bacillus subtilis, we call it as bacterial white spot. And can you see this dark dots? And this is the morphology of the white spots in Peneus monodon. Once again, I'm repeating, don't get confused. If there is a central halo space and radiating lines, this may be due to virus. If there is a central dot and floral appearance, this may be due to bacteria. And if it is like this, black dots in monodon, the white spot will be like this. And in Venami, the white spot will be like this. So if it is clear, please comment. I want to make it is clear to you. Comment in the comment box, it's clear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is very clear, sir.
Then let us go to the next slide. So most of the farmers bring samples to the laboratory. They don't want to spend on disease diagnostic using either PCR or immunodiagnostic test kits. They want us to observe under microscope and say whether it is white spot or not. First, we'll observe for white spots under microscope. We look at the morphology. Then we take a gill filament. We take gill filament and observe under 40x or 100x. We look for the morphology of the cell and the nucleus. Can see here, can you make out here, the nucleus, there is an enlarged nucleus. We call it as hypertrophied nucleus. So there is an enlarged nucleus means it is a presumptive diagnosis of white spot virus. Can see a normal nucleus here, and here there is an enlarged nucleus. We call it as hypertrophied nucleus. So this is a suspected case. We cannot presumptive diagnosis. So we cannot say it is white spot virus. This is a suspected case. So then some cases we go for rapid gill staining. There is a technique called rapid gill staining. Pick out one gill filaments, fix it in Davidson's fixative, then stain it with eosin and hematoxylin and eosin, mount it. You can observe the nucleus. This is very fast. You can do it in a few hours, within 1 hour. And can you see this normal nucleus and normal nucleolus? This is a normal cell. And here you can see there is a hypertrophied nucleus and chromatin is marginated. So this is a typical lesion of white spot virus. So hypertrophied nuclei is the typical lesion of white spot virus. So we have discussed about viruses. We have RNA viruses and DNA viruses. In most of the cases, DNA viruses, they present inside the nucleus, and RNA viruses, they present in the cytoplasm. So RNA viruses, the inclusion body will be in the cytoplasm. For DNA viruses, the inclusion will be in the nucleus, except one virus, DIV. Recently, there is one more virus that was reported in China. So it is the opposite. Then, so this is the electronic microscopic picture showing that this DNA, this white spot virus is present in the nucleus. Can see the nuclear membrane, and this is the cytoplasm. All these virus particles are assembled inside the nucleus. This is an electronic microscopic picture. And this is also electronic microscopic picture. Can you see a tail here? So can you see a tail here? That is why it is called as Nima virus. So that is why scientists, they given a new name called as Nima virus for white spot virus. Then definition of a suspected case. So infection with white spot virus is suspected if at least one of the following characteristics are criteria is met. One is clinical signs. We already discussed the different clinical signs of white spot virus. The second one is histopathology. The third one is PCR. So if any one of these criteria is met, we call it as a suspected case, especially for students. If you want to go for a publication, so if any one of these is positive, it is called a suspected case. And to publish, you must go for a confirmatory diagnosis. So definition of a confirmatory case is infection with the white spot virus. If it is positive either by histology or in situ hybridization, or PCR. It may be one-step PCR, two-step PCR, or real-time PCR. So if it has to pass two tests. So suppose, for example, it is positive by histology and PCR, we can say it is a confirmed case. Just by saying, by looking at PCR results, we cannot say it's a confirmatory diagnosis for publication. But in the field, we do only one test. But for research, you have to go for minimum two tests. And then, so the confirmatory diagnostic tests we have is PCR. Everywhere PCR labs are there in India. There are several PCR labs. So in the industry, we use PCR and lateral flow test strip. This is a test strip based on immunodiagnostic, especially sandwich ELISA principle. And in the research, you can do histopathology. We fix the shrimp in Davidson's fixative, alcohol, formalin, acetic acid. And then we go for taking sections and staining. So then so you can go for rapid gill staining. And there is one more test developed by Mangalore Fisheries College, that is rapid dot test. And it is an immunodiagnostic kit based on dot ELISA. You can see here. So there is a dot near positive and there is a no dot near negative. That means the result is negative. Suppose there is a dot here near negative, means the test is positive. So one is control dot, the other one is test dot. So there are other confirmatory tests. This one is iScreen. Earlier we used this kit for confirmatory diagnosis. And this is the traditional PCR. This PCR is based on electrophoresis. Now most of the industry people, they are using real-time PCR, but this is a gold standard, electrophoresis based and yttrium bromide stained gel electrophoresis. And this is in the field, we can do it within 10 minutes. You can get the result. Collect the shrimp tissue, especially from ectodermal and mesodermal regions. For example, you can take gills or you can take pleopods, homogenate in a buffer, and then put a drop here. You get 2 lines if it is positive, 1 line if it is negative, and no line means the kit has failed. So these are the confirmatory diagnostic kits we are using right now. And this one is isothermal PCR. This is developed by IQ Plus, Farming Intelligence, Taiwan company. And suppose 550 nanometers is internal control, 520 nanometers is virus. Suppose if it is positive here, it is virus. And if it is minus here, there is no virus. And this test you can do within 1 hour, 15 minutes. Very easy and very accurate, and it is OIE approved. Then in case of white spot virus, if you cannot diagnose within time, and if it is positive, you have to harvest within a few hours. Otherwise, there will be a mass mortality. Some cases, you may think it is white spot virus. You may harvest it. In such cases, you lose a huge amount of profit that you are going to get. In some cases, you think this is not virus. And if you don't harvest within time, you may get mass mortality and a huge loss. So I suggest you to go for a confirmatory diagnosis whenever you suspect a white spot virus. And then, so you should know a little bit about the survival of the host, survival of the virus outside the host. The white spot virus can survive under laboratory conditions for 30 days at 30 degrees centigrade. In ponds, it can survive up to 3 to 4 days in the water. That is why we suggest the farmers, you pump water, wait for 3-4 days, then you can pump it. And in the soil, it can survive up to 21 days. So that is why we suggest the farmer to dry the farm for 21 days. And in waterlogged areas, it can survive up to 40 days also. So based on this, we suggest the farmers when to go for pond preparation, how to do pond preparation. And then for coming to the treatment, if you want to treat 0.5 ppm of ozone for 10 minutes, it can kill the virus. And sodium hypochlorite, if you use, you can use bleaching powder at concentration of 100 ppm chlorine for 10 minutes can kill the virus. And one more chemical called as BKC, benzalkonium chloride, also known as quaternary ammonium compound, alkyl dimethyl benzyl ammonium chloride, at 100 ppm for 10 minutes. This also inactivates the virus. And iodophore, at the concentration of iodine, at the concentrations of 100 ppm, it can inactivate the viruses. So if you want to if you want to kill the virus, you have to go for either ozone 0.5 ppm or 100 ppm of chlorine, 100 ppm of BKC, or 100 ppm of iodine. You can kill the virus. But in the practice, in the farm level, we are killing all the carriers of white spot virus by application of 10 ppm bleaching powder and waiting for 3 to 4 days so that all the virus gets inactivated. So that is a common practice in the farm. Then coming to the next virus, IHHNV. IHHNV, infectious hypodermal hematopoietic necrotic virus. So it is belongs to the family Parvoviridae and genus Penstel denso virus. Why it is named as Penstel denso means it kills the Penaeus stylirostis. That is why they named it as Penstel denso virus. So International Committee on the Taxonomy of Viruses has assigned IHHNV with the species name of Decapod Penaeus stylirostis denso virus 1. Then, so etiological agent is the virus with, it's a DNA virus with 20 to 22 nanometers. We have already seen the morphology of it. It's icosahedron in shape, and its density is 1.4 grams per ml in cesium chloride. So we already discussed about Penaeus monodon is resistant. In India, long back, we have this virus, but it has not killed the Penaeus monodon. There is no effect on Penaeus monodon. So Penaeus monodon is resistant to this virus, and it kills blue shrimp. Blue shrimp is known as Penaeus stylirostis, and it causes a particular disease condition known as runt deformity syndrome in Litopenaeus vanami. Runting means it is not growing. Deformity means change in shape. Runt deformity. So growth will be less, shape will be different. So they call it as runt deformity syndrome. So I'll show you the pictures. Look at this. Can you see this rostrum? The body color is normal, but you can see the bent rostrum. So in shrimp farming, you can find different deformities. Have a look at this slide. So in this picture, hepatopancreas is pushed to one side. Sorry. In this picture, hepatopancreas is pushed to one side. In this, hepatopancreas is pushed down. And in this, midgut is deformed. And here, both eyes are one side. So all these 4 cases are not due to IHHNV. IHHNV does not affect digestive system. So here hepatopancreas and midgut are from the digestive system. It will not affect the digestive system. So if you look at all the 3 pictures on the bottom, can you see here there is a bent rostrum and there is a deformed tail, and here the rostrum is bent towards one side, and in this case the rostrum is bent down. So all these cases are typical IHHNV deformities. There are several other reasons for deformity. You must go for a confirmatory diagnosis. So several deformities were reported in this region, and the samples were analyzed both with PCR and histopathology for confirmatory diagnosis. And results confirm we have IHHNV in India, especially in Vanami. If you look at this particular form, it was the first report in my area. So same age, same seed. The one without IHHNV grows very fast, and the with IHHNV grows very slow. You can see the huge difference of size variation in this particular pond. So coming to the histology, so we call it as Cowdry A-type inclusion body, and you can see this This is the inclusion body in the hematopoietic tissue, and this is the inclusion body in nervous tissue. So this is the typical histology of IHHNV. In the initial stages, the inclusion body of white spot and IHHNV looks very similar, but IHHNV, it will not kill Vanami. It will kill only Stylorhostis. Then, not all the deformities are caused by IHHNV. You have to be very careful on that. All the enteric deformities are are negative to IHHNV, and the positive one showed very high size variation. And one more virus we have in India is IMNV, infectious myonecrotic virus, IMNV. And this is also icosahedral in shape. It was first reported in 2016 in West Bengal, 2016 December. It was confirmed in India by the government authorities in West Bengal. And then after that, it was reported in Andhra Pradesh, and recently it was reported in Tamil Nadu also. And people are suspecting IMNV in Gujarat, but they could not able to send the samples to the government labs because of COVID and lockdown. So it was first reported in Brazil, 2002, then 2003, up to 2006, it was confined to Brazil. Then it was reported in Indonesia. It spreads very slowly. When compared to white spot, its spread is relatively less because carriers, so far, there are no known carriers were reported for IMNV. If you take white spot virus, there are more than 100 carriers were reported. But in case of IMNV, there is no carrier reported. That is why the spread is very slow. And these are the typical symptoms, and you can find these symptoms with other diseases also. For example, this one is a running mortality and not IMNV. So in running mortality also, in running mortality also, you can find white muzzle. In case of severe low dissolved oxygen stress, you can find white muzzle and reddened necrotic areas. This also one of the symptoms in IMNV. And during summer, if the temperature crosses beyond 35, you get spontaneous white muzzle development. So all these symptoms, people think it is IMNV, but there are several reasons for white muzzle in Vanami. So how to differentiate IMNV, the white muzzle caused by IMNV and the white muzzle caused by other reasons? So you have to look at lymphoid organ. Lymphoid organ, it's an important vital organ. It filters and eliminates particulate pathogens, and located between stomach and hepatopancreas. I'll show you a video how to locate this. And it consists of two lobes. So while hemocytes or hemolymph passing through this lymphoid organ, it filters all the pathogens, and these granulocytes are the blood cells that encapsulates this virus particles and sends out in the form of spheroids. So this is a very good picture of lymphoid organ hypertrophy. Can see here two arrows are the two lobes of lymphoid organ, and this is hepatopancreas and this is stomach. This is anterior stomach and this is posterior stomach. Lymphoid organ is present exactly in between the joint between stomach and hepatopancreas. Next, I'll show you a video how to dissect and locate this lymphoid organ. You have to cut the carapace. You can see this big one is hepatopancreas and this one is stomach. So this is the location of lymphoid organ. Exactly this place. This is the location of lymphoid organ. Clear? And then in the histology, if the lymphoid organ is normal, it looks like this, very small. And in case of IMNV, it is hypertrophied. You can see it's so big, too big. So it's 4 times bigger than its normal size. So this is how you can differentiate IMNV, mortality and white muscle caused by IMNV, and white muscle because of other reasons. So this is the lymphoid organ tubule. And while passing this through this lumen, all these virus particles gets filtered and removed as spheroids. And coming to the histology, this is the typical histology of IMNV. We call it as coagulative muscle necrosis. You can see here on the left picture, this is the normal muscle fibers, and this is necrotic muscle. We call it as coagulative muscle necrosis. So you can see some hemocytic infiltration here. We call it as coagulative muscle necrosis. And this is the lymphoid organ, and all these round blue colored ones are spheroids. And this is a very rare picture. You can see both the symptoms, histology symptoms in one slide. So you can see spheroids in the lymphoid organ on the top, and on the bottom, coagulative muscle necrosis. All the 2 symptoms are in one slide. This is a very rare picture. If you know histology, you can enjoy it. If you don't know, it's a bit boring. Then coming to the third virus, Thara syndrome virus. Thara syndrome, it was not reported in India. It was named as Thara syndrome virus because it was first reported in the surroundings of Thara river, and Manoj Sharma has visited that river recently. So it's again RNA virus, icosahedral in shape. The main symptom is first the tail becomes red. You can see on the bottom, it's a normal tail, and on the top, the red tail. This is the initial symptom. Then you can see epithelial necrosis. This is the uropod of the shrimp. If you closely observe, there is a necrosis of epithelium. This is another second symptom. After that, you can see the black dots. So we call it as cuticular melanized lesions, MCL, melanized cuticular lesions. So in case of Thara syndrome virus, shrimp will die at the time of each and every molting. If it is able to molt, it will survive, it will recover. If it is not able to molt, it will die. So that is why in case of Thara syndrome virus, mortality will be there at the time of molting. So more molting, more mortality, less molting, less mortality. In early stages, molting will be frequent, so the mortality will be more. In bigger shrimp, the mortality, the molting cycle will be maybe, for example, 2 weeks to 10 days to 2 weeks. So the mortality will be very less in bigger shrimp. Mortality will be more in smaller shrimp as the frequency of molting is more. And we have tested in India. This is a system called as multi-vir system. You can detect all the 3 viruses at a time. And there is no Thara syndrome virus reported in India. All the samples tested negative in spite of black spots. So there are rumors of late stating that Thara syndrome virus is there, but there is no Thara syndrome virus in India reported so far. And one more virus OA listed is yellowhead virus. There was one publication, maybe 25 years back, there was one publication from Andhra University. They said yellowhead virus was first reported in India. But in my life of 25, 26 years in aquaculture, I have never seen a yellowhead virus in India. So there are no, even the national surveillance program is going on. So not even a single case of YHV yellowhead virus was reported in India. So that may be a false report. There is no yellowhead virus in India. So the symptoms are, you can see this yellow pigmentation, especially hepatopancreas and cephalic region. But we did histology also. we do rapid gill staining. I told you in case of WSSV white spot syndrome virus, we do rapid gill staining. If you observe this pycnotic and karyorectic nuclei, pycnotic means you can see on the right. So these are the normal cell nucleus and nucleoli. This is a normal healthy shrimp. In case of yellowhead virus, you can see pycnotic means condensed, becomes small and condensed, and karyorectic means broken nuclei. You can see here. A minute. Yeah, here you can see it's a broken, and you can see this is condensed nucleus. If there is a nucleus condensation or broken nuclei, it is a you can say it is a suspected case of yellowhead virus. And even it affects the lymphoid organ. You can see the tubule lumen. It's completely damaged to lymphoid organ tubules. And you can see pycnotic and karyorectic nuclei even in the lymphoid organ. So this is a typical of yellowhead virus. Fortunately, we don't have this in India. And we have tested also. There is a rapid test kit available for yellowhead virus. With this kit, you can check both yellowhead virus and white spot virus. You can see here, there is a line near C, that means kit has worked. And there is a line near W, that means white spot virus is there. And there is no line near yellowhead virus. Y means yellowhead virus is not there. So this is a brief about all the YA listed viruses. And coming to the conclusion, morning also Manoj Sharma was mentioning, prevention is better than treatment, but in India we take preventive treatment is better than so we are going for treatment. It's not correct. You have to manage it. Preventive management is better, but not preventive treatment. So focus on management. And in case of viruses, there is no treatment available. The only option is we have SPF broodstock. So we are getting broodstock free of all those pathogens, and we have to follow strict biosecurity. And as of now, SPR, specific pathogen resistant broodstock for white spot, is not available to us. So we have SPF broodstock, and if you follow strict biosecurity is all the measures you take to prevent the spread of entry and spread of the virus is called as biosecurity. So if you follow strict biosecurity, you can avoid, or you can go for a better production. So that's all for now. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And if you have any doubts,
Thank you, sir.
you can take some time to clarify.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the wonderful, colorful, and informative presentation. Of course, it was like watching a movie. We are going inside the infected shrimp like that. Thanks for the wonderful presentation, sir.
Thank you
Sir, can you narrate something on your Ravi Aqua Academy, what you are doing, how the others can approach and use that like that?
Sir, we are conducting training programs earlier, especially to the corporate companies like several feed companies we have conducted. And off late, we are conducting online training programs like this on specific aspects.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you. Anu, we can move to the question answer session. And before that, I think Sheshatri sir is there, and he can give some few words.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sheshadri sir, you can.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. This is again, every time we are getting wonderful presentations, and Dr. Ravi Kumar, we must thank for giving this wonderful presentation, especially on virus. The entire world is suffering from virus, we know very well. And we don't have a cure there, and here also we don't have any cures. And it's always good to go for, I mean, as he said, I mean, prophylactic or kind of damage control exercise. I just would like to get some more insights from you, sir, on the natural materials. So in human viruses, we talk about Ayurveda, Siddha. And can we try to get some insights on this, whether these kind of interventions will help in controlling the viruses?
Sir, first of all, we have to take care it should not enter your system. That's the foremost thing. And regarding herbal products, there is one particular herb is stimulating the immunity of the shrimp. They call it as Guduchi in Telugu, and in English, its scientific name is Tinospora cardifolia.
Yes.
It is able to improve the non-specific immunity of the shrimp.
Right.
Especially the total hemocytic count and prophenol oxidase is improved a lot.
Right. In Tamil, it is called Sindil Kodi,
Okay.
for cardifolia.
Okay.
And in Tamil Nadu also, in Siddha medicine also, it's used as a immune booster.
Okay.
And I think somebody has to start working on this immune boosting herbal plants, which are almost working for the human beings. Or we may have some traditional knowledge also in terms of, aquatic systems also. We need to collate all these things and somebody start working on this. I think India can strike gold in this area.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have so much of knowledge in Ayurveda.
Right.
We have to apply this to aquaculture.
Yes. Sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Welcome, sir.
Sir, Manoj Sharma, sir, are you there, sir? Can you join our platform, sir? Manoj Sharma, sir?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
one. Yes, sir. I'm
Please.
there. Sorry, I'm driving actually.
No problem, sir. Please, sir.
So, first of all, Dr. Amraneni Ravikumar,
Hi, sir.
I always love. I'm still driving from farm to home, and I made it sure to listen to you. It has always been educating, always been learning. Listen to your good, great work. So, to all my audience and to organizer, I'm going to say that I really appreciate the time and the dedication Dr. Amarneni Ravikumar has given to study the entire microbiology, the virology, the pathology for this aquaculture. So, uncomparable. This work is really uncomparable. And I had a lot of love and respect for my brother. And Ravi, I think you should convert into a fantastic book or whatever knowledge you have. I've been also watching your all the videos on YouTube, but I think this is time that you should compile a fantastic book under your name. And I think it will serve as a biggest guide for pathology in aquaculture.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And wonderful listening to you. God bless you, Amarneni, for your good work.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. In fact, around 7-8 years back, we both look alike. Now there is a huge difference. So people used to get confused.
No, but still, world over, people still get confused. He's Dr. Manoj Sharma or Amarneni Ravikumar. So anyway, I think today's both session, morning and evening, was very fruitful for the farmers community. And God bless you. It's a very learning. Even after 27 years also, whenever I listen to you, it will be every day it's something new education. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Manoj, sir. Thanks for your wonderful words. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Inba. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Vinith, is Logavardi ma'am is there? Ask her.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you unmute, ma'am? She can.
Yes. Ma'am, please unmute yourself. Logabardi, ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Okay, if ma'am is not there, we can go for the question answer session.
Yes, sir.
Ravi sir, you have time, sir. Shall I go with the question answer session, sir?
Yeah, please, sir. Please.
Please, sir. Anu,
Yes, sir.
please. Yeah.
Shall we proceed with the question and answer session, sir?
Please.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation, sir. It's very neat and clean presentation, and the participants are commenting that they have got a very good knowledge on the shrimp diseases regarding the viruses and all. And the first query given by a participant is, what steps we should follow during the cultivation in order to prevent the diseases or not to get the diseases, and what to do if we have the diseases already in the pond?
Yeah, we call it as biosecurity program. So it starts with the pond preparation, and based on the pathogen, the program differs. So as far as virus is concerned, if you can dry the pond for 21 days, so your pond is clean. Then you have to pump water. For example, if you are pumping water from the creek, there is every chance you are inviting a pathogen inside your system. Then you have to concentrate on the water treatment protocols. So how to kill all the carriers. You have to filter the carriers first, then kill all the carriers, and then wait for dechlorination. Then you have to pump it. And after pumping, you have to select the seed. So seed, you should select SPF or high health shrimp from a reputed hatcheries, so that before seed stocking, you have to go for PCR again. And as Manoj was telling in the morning, nurseries help you a lot. Nurseries help as a quarantine systems. If there is a virus, so you can get, they get detected in nursery phase itself. You can discard there itself. And you have to follow strict biosecurity protocols like hand wash, foot wash, craft fencing, bird fencing, control of people's movement, etc. So all these things will help you a lot. It's a big program. The program varies based on the pathogen and based on the area, the water source, etc.
Thank you, sir. And the next query is from Rajneesh Kumar. He asked, what is the pros and cons if you want to cultivate in the open pond?
Open pond, pros is it's very easy to construct. If you want to construct an indoor system, it's prohibitively high. So cons is biosecurity. So it will attract all the birds. So it's biosecurity risk is there. But it's highly cost effective. Open system is sustainable and cost effective.
Thank you, sir. And many compliments is going on coming, sir. It's very nice presentation, highly informative presentation, and the chat box is full of compliments, sir.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very much.
yes, sir. And Logoparathi ma'am is asking to unmute, sir. So, Mr.
Yes.
Vineet, can you please unmute her?
Yes, yes, sure. Ma'am, please unmute yourself. Ma'am, I'm giving the option to unmute.
Ravi sir, she is our scientific steering committee member from Ministry of Earth Science,
Okay.
Lokupardi ma'am. So she
Okay.
want to give her
Yeah,
views.
please, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, please unmute yourself, ma'am.
Or ma'am, you can give your inputs in the chat box so that we can
Yeah,
read
that's
it out.
better.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Ma'am is here, sir. Ma'am,
Yeah.
please, ma'am. Please continue, ma'am.
Somebody is asking about immunostimulant.
Immunostimulant.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It's Tinospora cardifolia. Tinospora cardifolia. And other immunostimulants are there. Beta glucan is a very good immunostimulant. Peptidoglycan is another immunostimulant. These are very widely used in aquaculture as a immunostimulants. Peptidoglycan, beta glucan, and Tinospora cardifolia.
Okay.
Another query they are asking is, what is the role of defensive cells in protection of this diseases, viral diseases?
Yeah, no, people say we don't have, most, as you know that there are no antibodies produced in shrimp, but it has got its own mechanism. Like phagocytosis is there, nodule formation is there, encapsulation is there. So suppose the virus, the pathogen is small, it starts with the phagocytosis, and the pathogen number is less, it starts with the nodule formation. If the pathogen number is more, it forms granuloma. So this is how hemocytes respond to different pathogens and different counts. For example, some pathogens they don't recognize. And most popular pathogen now in India is EHP. EHP, shrimp body is not recognizing it as a foreign body, as an antigen. Why? Because EHP contains chitin. So the outer layer of EHP contains, EHP spore contains chitin. So chitin is, it will not recognize it as a foreign body. So the immune response won't be there. Even in case of fungus, for example, some fungus, they respond and form nodule formation. For example, Lesnidium, they won't recognize. So if there is a recognition, it will protect. If there is no recognition, the shrimp will succumb to the disease. For example, Fusarium, they recognize a fungal pathogen. And Lesnidium, they don't recognize. If they are not recognizing means it's more dangerous.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I have one question, sir. What is the role of bacterial load and in causing the infection, viral infection?
So
Many people are actually many people are telling that a Vibrio load will have a effect on that viral disease.
Definitely, definitely. Your system is good. You can survive. The shrimp can survive with virus. For example, if you take during monodon time, 50% of the cases they are able to get crop in spite of viral infection. So now you should be able to differentiate between infection and disease. So suppose white spot virus is present inside the body, we call it as it is infected. When it multiplies and damages into organs, we call it as disease. Okay. So as long as your system is good, your environment is good, your immunity of the shrimp is good, it will be in still infected stage. So whenever it is stressed, it goes to disease stage. So for example, my mentor always used to tell me, in case of pathogens, 1 + 1 is not equal to 2. It's always equal to 11. The impact of white spot virus and Vibrio will be much more higher than individual pathogens.
Okay.
I think it's clear.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sir, I have one more question, sir. As there is a great demand and interest in shrimp aquaculture in India, is there enough aqua clinic in India, or they are approachable to the farmers? And what is the role of our government in doing that?
Sir, as far as the government is concerned, 2 laboratories are doing very good, giving very good service to the industry. One is RGCA, Sirikali, okay, and the other one is SIBA.
Okay.
Even now, I'm regularly sending samples for histopathology and other tests. Okay. For example, if you take EHP, I have a PCR lab. Okay. So farmers, around 4 or 5 farmers send me a soil sample for EHP testing by PCR. I tested it, but it came negative. So, but I know it's positive. I tested, I screened during culture, I did a PCR test and it was positive. But when I got the sample, soil sample, it came negative. Then I approached SIBA, Dr. Vatta, and he told me you have to use, you cannot use the same DNA extraction protocol that you are using for shrimp tissue. You have to go for soil extraction DNA kit. So like that, they are giving very good service, especially RGCA and SIBA. Hats off to them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Whenever
sir.
I got doubt, I approached these 2 laboratories and 3 people in India. One is Manoj, the other one is Cheran, and one more is Rajkumar Singh from CP. So these 5 people are approachable and they have very good sound knowledge.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the information, sir. So that even all the people who want such kind of answer, they can record it and they can use the same thing.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Anu, any more questions?
Yes, sir. One more question is this.
Yeah.
This question is from Srikarna Shekhar. He has asked, what is your views on the recently discovered virus SHIV, shrimp hemocyte iridescent virus? Has there been any cases identified in India, sir?
So far, there is no reported case of SHIV or DIV in India. It was confined to China and some other parts. And we need not worry about that virus because our brood stocks come from US and Mexico. And after coming to India, they will be there in quarantine for 5 days. There they screen for all the known pathogens. Now, whatever the brood stock we are getting, confidently we can say it's DIV free. So we need at this moment, we need not worry about DIV and SHIV. And in my YouTube channel, there is a video on this. Of course, it's in Telugu. If you are interested, you can go through it.
Yes, sir, you can play, sir. It's not a problem, sir, because a lot of the participants are from Andhra and people can see the video. Also.
Yeah. My YouTube channel is on my name only, Amrani Ravikumar.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
there is a video on that.
Yeah. Anu?
Yes, sir.
Sir, are you going to play the video or you?
No. So it's a long video.
Yeah, okay, sir.
They can
Yes, sir, yes,
the
sir.
YouTube channel and
Yeah. Anu, any other questions there?
Yes, sir. How they are asking about amount of tissue used for doing PCR or for confirm the disease. The small amount is enough for all of them.
yeah, normally we take around 20 milligrams. So now we are talking about COVID PCR testing. There are several false negatives and several false positives. Same in case of shrimp also, there are several cases of false positives and false negatives. If you take too much of tissue, you get too much of DNA, so you don't get amplification. So normally we take 20 milligrams or less. And in research, we suggest them, you go for nucleic acid quantification. If it is more than less than 100 nanograms, it is suitable.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
so
that.
much, sir.
Welcome.
Yes,
Sir,
sir. We
I
can
have-
end the question and
No,
yes, sir.
actually, we can end the question, but
Yes, sir.
I have one small thing.
Yes, sir.
Because a lot of our students, they are doing research on this beta glucan as well as biopolymer from, particularly they are using seaweed biopolymer to challenge the shrimps, infected shrimps. So is it really will give a fruitful result? What is your view, sir?
So it's helping a lot, sir.
Yes.
Definitely, it's helping a lot.
So
I have tested it. I have tested before and after application. I have
Okay.
tested the total hemocyte count and prophenol oxidase. There's a
Okay.
clear difference.
So you want to say a biopolymer or any kind of polysaccharide will have an effect on such kind of thing?
Definitely.
Okay, sir. That will be another avenue for our students, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
they can work on the same thing.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot
Thank you
for
so
the
much.
wonderful presentation. Thank you, Sarma, sir, and thank you, our Sheshadri, sir, for joining with us. And thanks for Logo Bharati, ma'am, also. Unfortunately, we are unable to connect you with your video. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thanks, Amarin, sir.
Thanks a lot. All the
Thanks a
best.
lot,
Stay
sir.
safe.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
sir.
you so much, sir.
Anu, you can give the instruction to the speaker about, participants
Participants,
about
yes, sir.
our tomorrow's program.
Yes. Mr. Vinit, please display the brochure, Vinit,
Yes.
so the participants can view it. Yeah. So thank you for all the participants who are patiently listening the session. And regarding the feedback form, it will be given in the chat box in both in the Zoom and the YouTube live streaming chat box. Once the session is over, you will able to fill the feedback form. It will be circulated in any of the sessions, so kindly please patiently wait. And regarding the tomorrow's session, tomorrow is the third day of a virtual symposium on recent trends in aquaculture industry. So the morning session will be held by Mr. Raja Manohar in topic role of technology in making aquaculture ecosystem resilient. Kindly make it Zoom, Vinit. Yes, thank you. So he is the CEO and co-founder of Aqua Connect India. And the afternoon session at 1 p.m. will be handled by Mr. B. Ravikumar on topic minimizing production cost for sustainable shrimp farming. So participants kindly join
Anu, are you
tomorrow.
there? Vinit?
Yes. Sir.
Can you hear me now, sir?
Yes.
Yes, I. Impactants have some internet connectivity problem. I
Mr.
think.
Vinit, can you hear me now?
Yeah. I can hear you. Anu. Please continue.
Yes. So participants kindly join for tomorrow sessions, both for forenoon and afternoon sessions. Kindly join the session 15 minutes before. Thank you for your cooperation and patience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you also. Thank you.
So we can leave the meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ye-
Thank
yes.
you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Our pleasure, sir.